We have a question from a seeker. I have been on this particular iteration of my path for some time now, and for many years I kept my cards close to my chest and never overplayed my hand, which brought me the moniker of the Vulcan monk of Montreal. But over the years, as I have slowly progressed, very rarely do I ever show emotion openly in the general public. There was someone I became friends with from India. She talked a good talk, but her lifestyle and actions were not congruent with claiming she was a Buddhist Hindu devotee. And I had enough of her taking advantage of my personal boundaries, so I spoke some words and nailed her directly. I've never seen her again, and she lives upstairs from me. I find I am impatient. I agree with the video about seeker having issues with living in society after awakening too. So he's referring to a video that I made a couple of days back about how it gets difficult after awakening to fit into the society. So I'll read. I have always suppressed my emotions and never spoke about them to anyone because who cares really? But I find that I am sometimes emotionally raw in certain areas of my life. And you said not long ago that just because you are or might be awakened, it does not make you a good person. And sometimes I'm not a good person, and that weighs on me. If I am to learn what makes me tick, is it not necessary to see my shadows out in the open or not? There are just times when I have had enough of people at some point. Someone is going to be on my hit list, and mostly not by their own choice. They just happen to be in the proximity of an emotional cascade, usually in public and in grocery store or here at home where I live, which is also where I work. My emotional tolerance level for stupidity and ignorance does not get people very far once they have crossed the invisible stupidity line. Then I tend to crack, and that is not to me congruent with awakening. So that's my conundrum right now. This is the whole problem. We go with an idea of what an awakened person should be like or should not be like. People think that Ramana Maharishi was a very calm person because he was awakened. But it was not that awakening brought him calm. He was calm even before awakening. In fact, he would sleep in his class, and sometimes other children bullied him to an extent that they beat him, but he kept sleeping. It didn't disturb him. He was by nature calm, whereas someone like Nisargadatta Maharaj was a little jittery or restless in nature, and he would lash out with a short temper. But he said that his conclusion was, in the end, that I have completely accepted myself and this conditioning as it is. So I am not at war with myself. I do not have any ideas about what a good spiritual person should or should not be like. That's a trap. The moment you start conceiving an idea, a thought, an imagination about what an awakened person should be like, that is where you get trapped in the dualism again of right and wrong. First of all, people misunderstand the videos that I make about awakening. They think that I'm talking about a person awakening, which is not true. I'm talking about awakening as an impersonal happening. So tell me one thing. Are you not aware of all this that you have described? Are you not aware of your quote unquote your impatience, as you write here? Are you not aware of your reactions? Are you not aware of your having had enough of people and wanting to distance from them and not tolerating quote unquote stupidity from them? Now, awakening does bring a change in the mind body organism. That change is a mixed bag. It cannot be classified as positive or a negative change because it is marked by emotional highs and lows. But subsequently, one does find stability as more and more acceptance comes. And the part that is hardest for the ego to accept is that there is no differentiation between me and the other. The unrest, the impatience that I see in myself, or let's put it the other way around, the impatience or stupidity that I see in the external world is a part of me. It does not exist outside, it exists here within me, in my mind as concepts. We live in times when there are a lot of conveniences today. We are surrounded by technology, everything is a click away. But just imagine a time where there would be no technology, no smartphones, no gadgets, no facility to order food around or order cabs, no facility to buy anything online, no facility to pay bills online. I mean, living in India and living in some of the most poverty-ridden parts of India, I've seen that lifestyle myself. Not just seen it, I have lived it. You don't survive in those communities without any support or help. So if a neighbor is available, you see it as a grace of God. If someone is available, you see it as a great grace of God. I remember when we were small, my father was posted in a small town called Churk in Uttar Pradesh. That town did not even have proper electricity, and my school was very far, and there was all industrial, raw industrial, indigenous industrial complex around, and for miles there was no human being to talk to. So when someone came over, there was no analysis from my side or from my family of what this person's belief is, or whether they are whether they are living what they are saying or not. No, nothing. In fact, just being offered a presence was enough. Someone just coming over and visiting was enough. But in the modern world, we are so hooked to technology and so dependent on technology that it is making us more and more lonely, because we are losing human touch, human connections. If we were living in those times, one wouldn't give one thought about my personal preferences, sensitivity, my disorders, this, that, No, because then it came to survival. For example, if there was a storm in the middle of the night and something broke down in the house, there wouldn't be any phone or any mechanism to contact anybody. So one had to run and get whatever help was possible in the closest area. Whichever human being was there in the closest area, we would take help. It's only when this mind comes up with the idea that I am a certain way and I've had an experience, and therefore I want other people who have similar experiences, and then only I will get along with them. That idea is a separative idea, it's a separative thought. So I would like to ask, who is this me that is trying to fix itself by doing shadow work or this or that? And why is that movement there in the first place? That movement comes from the assumption that I'm a certain way and I should not be a certain way. Now, of course, life is having its movement, and if an action happens, a corresponding consequence of the action will also happen. And through that consequence, the learning will happen. Therefore, nature will be brutal because nature does not give a warning. Well, sometimes it does, but for small thing, it does not give warnings. It just gives the consequences, and sometimes through that, a learning happens. And that learning is not personal. The ego does not learn, the ego does not surrender. The surrender happens. And the surrender is, now this is just my concept, but the surrender is that the being or the consciousness that runs in me is the same consciousness that runs in all. And the recognition of that being in all brings harmony in relationships, bring peace in relationships. So whenever you are in, let's say, a public place, at a grocery store, and you feel irritated by the other, quote unquote other, for a moment just pause and reflect. Are you really irritated by the other, or is there an irritation within you? If you reflect deeply and if you really go into the depths of this, what you will find is that the irritation is already there in you, and it just comes out at times when it is destined to come out. All that needs to be done is to just observe, or I would say, let the observation happen. And I've said it many times and I'll say it again. Let the awareness do the job. Do not try to fix yourself in the name of awakening, trying to be congruent with an idea of awakening, because that will keep you stuck in this conundrum that you find yourself in right now. You will keep bouncing from one end to the other end. One moment you will think an awakened person should be like this, therefore I should be more calm, I should be more patient, I should be more accepting, and then I will finally be awakened. But that's not the thing. You will never be awakened. I am not awakened. Awakening happens. And yes, awakening does not require us to be a good person, because good and bad is an idea of the mind. And awakening is the light that shines, that illuminates the mind. It is the base, it is the substratum. It is the groundless ground of being through which all experiencing takes place. That is what you are. The problem is the mind where that crack has happened. through impersonal awareness, or let's say impersonal awakening, that mind remains confused for some times because the mind is habituated with these, you know, patterns, mental patterns, that one should be like this, one should be like that. Let the body do whatever it's doing, just observe. And yes, be smart about it. Doesn't mean that if something is too troubling, you shouldn't take help. That's not the implication here. So be smart about it. But the thing is, there is no other. This whole separation between me and the other, this is what brings suffering in life. Unfortunately or fortunately, I don't know how to say it, but we cannot be really peaceful until we accept humanity for what it is. And the thing is, the irony is that what we hate in others is a part of ourselves too. And consider the possibility that it may never go. This irritation may never go. Can we accept those parts of ourselves? Can we love those parts of ourselves too? The wounded parts, the injured part. Yes, that means we may not be able to get along with a certain group, which is fine. But you know, there is always someone there to love you. But you will never be able to find that love unless and until you move out of your own personal energetic boundaries that you have created for yourself. That means until you stop identifying with your mind as your only reality, you will never be able to find the love of the wholeness. And to find the love of that wholeness, just be and let the awareness do the job. So rather than conceptualizing awakening, see it just as a glimpse, you know. And the glimpse eventually brings about this understanding that today, whatever I am, whichever way I behave, has happened because the Creator has created me this way. One can certainly work on oneself. You can do shadow work if you feel like, or do any other practices. All practices are very beautiful, very helpful. But in the end, you will be confronted by the very fundamental basic question: who am I? Who is this me that is trying to fix himself or herself? And when that question comes up, then something revolutionary takes place. The mind sees no space to expand because it has inverted on itself. And then the surrender happens. That is what Ramesh Balsekar called as deliverance. And deliverance is the total understanding that everything happens as per will of God and there is no individual doer of any action. So Ramesh Balsekar's favorite quote was, events happen, deeds are done, consequences happen, but there is no individual doer thereof. Everything is an impersonal happening to no one. It's just happening. So who is there in the grocery line? Who's there at the cash counter? Who irritates you? Is there really a person? Or is there a conditioned, or let's say a tuned instrument that is operating as universe wants it to operate? What we call as the other is a conditioned instrument, is a programmed instrument, a uniquely programmed instrument, just as you are a uniquely programmed instrument. So, why should the instrument bother when it took no part in programming itself? Doesn't mean we cannot work on ourselves. We can certainly work on ourselves. We can do breath work, yoga, amazing, beautiful practices. They bring a lot of relief. They open up, uh, they open up nerves, different energy points. But the fundamental question that brings peace is, who am I? And when that question comes into the picture, the I dissolves back into the source. So then the conditioned instrument, which I call myself, just operates in day to day living and operates in a way as situations present themselves. So when there will be a need to feel irritable, it will feel irritable. When there will be a need to resist something, it will resist something. But it will not live in resentment. It will not live in hate, jealousy, envy, malice, spite. It will experience these things momentarily. Momentarily, everything will be experienced, but there will be no continuation of these things in horizontal time as suffering. That is the difference. And that brings peace. But in a moment to moment interaction, we all are the same way. I also feel irritable sometimes. I also don't want to be in people's presence sometimes. There are so many people who don't like to talk to me, which is fine. But there are so many others who enjoy talking to me, and I enjoy talking to them. Why shouldn't I devote myself to them? I cannot be loved and liked by everybody in the world. I think Source doesn't design us like that. All that we can do is just be kind to ourselves and accept ourselves for the way we are. So what I'm trying to say, that let the instrument do its job and just be aware and just be, and let the awareness do its job, disregarding what awakening awakening should or should not be like. I hope that helps. Take care.